Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you guys doing? And welcome to another session whereby we're going to be going through some of the important ways by which and through which we can be persuasive in a debate format and in a public speaking format as well. In the previous session, we discussed rhetoric quite a lot, and we had some rounds that we've done, some sparring rounds that we also participated in, and corrections afterwards. I think the best way to learn, really, one of the best ways to learn. So we're going to pick up where we left off, and then we're going to be joined with the esteemed Subboor Ahmed, who's going to introduce something which I think is as important, if not more important, than the study of logic, the study of rhetoric, and the study of how to persuade using body language and all the things we spoke about, which is ethics. A lot of the debates, especially if we're coming from a Muslim perspective, that we have gets basically down to the fundamental question of what is right and wrong, and how do we know what's right and wrong. And that's essentially the study of ethics. And so Subboor is going to propose a system by which and through which we, the Muslims, can respond to, let's say, secular, liberal, atheist, feminist, whoever it may be, interlocutors. All of them will work with this particular system that he's going to draw for us. But before we do that, let me just get everyone here, ready for action and ask some questions, because we want to make this as interactive as possible. This is not a lecture, this is an interactive session. Otherwise, it would be worth it. So, what is rhetoric? We talked about rhetoric. What is rhetoric? How would anyone define it?
The art of speech.
Okay, but what in particular about speech?
Persuasion.
Persuasion. All right, yeah, so, to be rhetorical is to be what then? Persuasive. To be rhetorical is to be persuasive. Good. All right. Now, last time we ended with a particular concept, okay? And it's basically called parallelism, okay? We said that when you're speaking, when you're having a conversation, and you put opposing ideas together in a certain format, that you create parallel structures. Who remembers what Sūrah in the Qur'an that we went through to demonstrate this point? This was in the end part of the last session, where we're talking about things which are opposite. Who remembers that?
I wasn't here.
Oh, yes. That's not, okay. We were talking about Surah al-Layl, chapter 92 of the Qur'an. And we said that the beautiful, and this is why this is important, is for two things. We always say we want to learn how to be persuasive, yeah? But the most persuasive book is the Qur'an. We're not going to learn from this person, that person, the other person. The most persuasive is the Qur'an. So the rhetorical devices that can be pulled out should be pulled out from the Qur'an. And we should learn from that, not just from a perspective of getting guidance, extracting guidance from the Qur'an, but from the perspective of also learning how to persuade others, because the Qur'an is the best speech on how to persuade others. So in other words, stylistically, it's the most rhetorical, as well as in content, it's the most packed with guidance. So we gave the example of chapter number 92, right? And you will have memorized this surah. وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى وَالنَّهَارِ إِذَا تَجَلَّى وَمَا خَلَقَ الذَّكَرَ وَالْأُنثَى إِنَّ سَعْيَكُمْ لَشَتَّى فَأَمَّا مَنْ أَعْطَى وَاتَّقَى وَصَدَّقَ بِالْحُسْنَى فَسَنُيَسِّرُهُ لِلْيُسْرَى وَأَمَّا مَنْ بَخِلَ وَاسْتَغْنَى وَكَذَّبَ بِالْحُسْنَى فَسَنُيَسِّرُهُ لِلْعُسْرَى. Now, if we read the translation of that, actually I think it's probably good if someone reads the translation of that. Can someone read the translation of that? Get some reading done in this class. Chapter 92. Read it for us, please.
By the night when it covers.
Okay, so you have the night, yeah? Night. What else you have?
Day.
Keep going.
And the day when it shines.
Yeah, I have day. Okay, so already, what would you have here? So what is that? What's the relationship? Opposites. Okay, so you got opposites, yeah? Keep going.
And by the one who created male and female.
So you have male and you have female, okay? Male, female, okay?
Opposite.
What's again? Opposites, yeah? All right, beautiful. What else do we have? Keep going.
Surely the ends you strive for are diverse.
So diversity is mentioned. Keep going. And this is the important bit here. I want you to pay attention to this. Go on.
As for the one who is charitable,
Charity.
mindful of Allah.
Charitable, okay? What else?
Mindful of Allah.
Mindful of Allah. Mindful. Okay, what else?
And firmly believes in the finest reward.
Believes. Yeah? Yeah?
And finest reward.
In what?
And firmly believes in the finest reward.
Fine. Okay, so firmly believes. Yeah?
Yeah.
Then?
We will facilitate for them the way of ease.
Ease. Okay. So that's 4 now. Okay, what else you got?
And as for the one who is stingy,
Stingy.
indifferent to Allah.
Aha, so he's actually not mindful. He's indifferent.
Yeah.
Okay. What else we got?
And staunchly denies the finest reward.
He's denying. This one's believing. This one's what?
Denying.
Denying. Okay.
Staunchly denying.
And what else? So then what happens to this guy?
We will facilitate for them the path of hardship.
Hardship. Subhanallah. So this is all opposite, 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 opposite. Now, in English rhetoric, now this is a book I recommend. It's quite nice. Farnsworth Classical English Rhetoric book. The reason why I recommend this particular one is because the main one, which if you wanted to buy a book on rhetoric, is called Classic Rhetoric for Modern Students. It's worth, you have to buy it for £175. This is worth like, £15 or something. I tried to find a version of the other one that's cheap. This one's has got as much as you need, yeah? Now, what I want to do is show you something. So you got this surah here, okay? I want you to look at this surah and think about it. You've got all these opposites, but at the same time you have rhyme going on, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Because the surah rhymes, doesn't it? So bear that in mind. I'm going to tell you something in English and then come back to this. I'm going to show you why it's rhetorical, yeah? So, in English rhetoric, there are 2 ideas. One of them is called isocolon. Maybe I should write this down. Have you guys got this? Yeah. Now, this is going a little bit into detail, but to be honest, I think if we don't go into detail, then we won't have the advantage. Yeah. Right, flipped, yeah. Oh, no, it's all right. No, it's opposite. So you have isocolon. Yeah. All right. This is one concept. Concept A. All right. I'm going to give you an example of what this is. It's the same thing. We're talking about things which are opposites being used in the same sentence. So let's go and give the examples that these people are giving us. Yes, some nice examples here, by the way. First of all, I'll give you the definition according to the book. Yeah. Isocolon, one of the most common and important rhetorical figures, is the use of successive sentences, clauses, or phrases similar in length and parallel in structure. So similar in length and parallel in structure, okay? So you have here, as an example of this, Burke, famous politician in the UK, he wrote something. He said, look, this is quite a nice thing he said. He goes, they who bow to the enemy abroad will not be of power to subdue the conspirator at home. Can you see the opposites here now? You've got abroad and you've got at home. But the rhythm of the way this is being said is quite similar. Okay, that's another example. I'll give you another example, another great example. Dickens, one of the greatest literary figures of the 19th century. Probably of all time, actually, in the UK, in Britain, and in the English-speaking world. He says he was a morose, savage-hearted, bad man. Of course, we're not talking here about Ali Dawah. He was a morose, savage-hearted, bad man. I thought, well, morose means morose means somebody who is cold, depressive in their behavior. Okay. Yeah, someone who's always like, he looks like he's pessimistic, depressive, that kind of behavior, cold, that kind of thing. Yeah. He was a morose, savage-hearted, bad man. Now this sounds like it's not Dickens, it's my wife that's talking. But he continues. He says, idle and dissolute in his habits, cruel and ferocious in his disposition. Can you see what's going on? Opposites. Can you see why that's rhetorical, though? It's rhetorical because you're bringing opposite ideas together that create contrast in imagery in your mind, and it's also rhythmic at the same time. All right. So you've got, this is an example of isocolon. All right. Now the most I've ever been able to see, and maybe there is more in English language, but is, because we've just given an example of what we call doublets. Doublets is when you have two and then two. He was cruel, and he was, I don't know, what's the other one? Savage, or no, there's the opposite of that. I don't know. He was morose, and he was something else.
Savage-hearted.
Savage-hearted, and maybe something else. I can't remember let's get the quote. He's dissolute in his habits, cruel and ferocious in his disposition. Yeah. All right, so that's an example. Now, that's an example of doublets. You've got two things being mentioned. We saw with Sūrah al-Layl, it's not doublets here. There was 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. There was 4. Yeah. The most I've been able to see in the English language is triplets. So it's 3 for 3. Yeah.
The isocolon or doublets?
No, doublets. So the isocolon is using doublets, but you can also use triplets. So doublets is the way in which isocolon is being used. You can use it with 2 things, and you can use it with 3 things. Did you get it? So here, for example, I'm giving you an example here of being used of 3 things. He says, the notice which you have been pleased to take of my labours, had it been early, had been kind, but it had been delayed till I am indifferent and cannot enjoy it, till I am solitary and cannot impart it, till I am known and do not want it. So these are examples of 3 times. You mentioned 1, 2, 3. But does that sound very nice? No. It doesn't sound very fluid, does it? Like Sūrah al-Layl, فَأَمَّا مَنْ أَعْطَى وَاتَّقَى وَصَدَّقَ بِالْحُسْنَى. You can see. So number 1 is it's got more. It's got more elements. Number 2, it's more rhythmic. Okay. And number 3, it's giving you opposition from the very beginning. So this brings me to, so you got isocolon, which we spoke about. What is the definition of isocolon that we gave?
Sentences similar in length.
Similar in length and clauses, right? Right. So now, another concept, which is also, you've got parallelism, okay, which is the major yeah, this is the major heading. Then you've got isocolon, that's number 1. Yeah, but maybe you need to put it in a different way then. Yeah. I don't know. I'll sit down in a second. You can do it. Help me. Help. Then you've got another thing called, I'm going to write it down for you. Okay, it's called chiasmus. Yeah? Yeah, I know it's spelled CH, but it's pronounced not like that, yeah? Do you want to help me with this before I continue? Okay. Yeah, sorry, bro. We'll write this down and I'll tell you the difference. Thanks, yeah. So chiasmus, I'll give you the definition here, occurs when words or other elements are repeated with their order reversed. A well known and relatively modern example is from John Kennedy. He's saying, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. Okay, sounds all right, no problem. Yeah, so it says here, occurs when words or other elements are repeated with their order reversed. So, Surah al-Layl therefore uses two things at once. It does use this and it does use this. Because you've got the order reversed. أَمَّا مَنْ أَعْطَى وَاتَّقَى وَصَدَّقَ بِالْحُسْنَى فَسَنُيَسِّرُهُ لِلْيُسْرَى. Whoever gives, who's charitable, وَاتَّقَى is pious, وَصَدَّقَ بِالْحُسْنَى, and he believes, then we'll make it easy for him. That's an example of chiasmus as well as isocolon. You've got elements of both. You could even argue the whole surah is chiasmus. If you read the whole surah, continue reading the surah, you'll start realizing there's oppositional things the whole thing. Do you know what's more interesting? Not to go too much into this, we'll have a whole course on this. Surah al-Layl is oppositional and parallel with the next surah and the surah before it. Because what's after Surah al-Layl? Surah al-Duha. وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَّ. By the morning light. Well, before it was what? Before it was the night. Aha, you see. You can't make this up. Can you see why the rhetoric of the Qur'an is superior to everything else? The surah before now was Shamsi wa Duhaha. So the surah before is talking about the sun and its brightness. Then you've got a surah that's talking about the nighttime. Then you've got the surah, the next one, that's talking about the brightness again. So you can see opposition, opposition, opposition. Within the surah, it's parallels, rhythmic parallels to the point where there is no example in English literature. There is no. You find triplets maximum, maybe. Let alone finding surah, and it's all rhythmic and it's all... No. When you understand the rhetoric of the Qur'an, you understand why the Arabs of the time, the initial audience, they considered this to be the word of God, not poetry. But this is just a taster of that. Obviously, now you know this thing. Look, you don't need to know the specific aspects, frankly. This is quite complicated. But what would be good for your purposes, obviously being debaters and people that want to come out and persuade people, is not necessarily knowing all this. Is knowing how to implement sentences with opposites. That's what we're going to try today. Yeah? Yeah.
Just as a side point, wouldn't someone argue with the order of the surahs that it was done by Sahaba?
Yeah, of course, some will say that, they would argue that the Sahaba put them together, the surahs as it was. The majority opinion is that was not the case, number one. Yeah? And in fact, that was Tawqifi, and Angel Gabriel put the order of the surahs together in that way. And let's say for the sake of argument, if we say that the Sahaba put it in that order, why did they all come to the conclusion that that should be the order? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that particular order, right? Allah, did He know that it was going to be that order? Did He put it in Lawh al-Mahfuz, in that order? So when the Qur'an is mentioned in Lawh al-Mahfuz, what order is it mentioned in? You see? So this is not an argument against. Obviously there's lots of things about the structure of the Qur'an that we can talk about in a different session. Raymond Farron wrote that very interesting book about the structure of the Qur'an, etc., which you can read, it's nice. But I was just trying to bring these two ideas. In Arabic, this is called al-Muqabala, by the way. This is a thing here, it's called al-Muqabala. It's the same idea. And I think the most in the Arabic language you can do is 7 for 7. Like 7 things and their opposites. They haven't found anything in the poetry that 7 for 7 or 6 for 6. So that's one thing. Let's try this first. Yeah, try and create your own parallelisms. Okay, so I'm going to let you speak to the person next to you. Imagine you're speaking to a feminist, for the sake of argument. Yeah, and you want to convince her. You want to convince a feminist that we shouldn't be treated the same in all circumstances. Yeah? Now, of course, that's a very simple thing to say. We shouldn't. Why? Because we are biologically different, physiologically different. So why should we be treated the same? You're saying that, but now you want to say it with rhetorical edge. Okay? So I'll let you speak to the person next to you. And how can you construct a sentence or two that employs these ideas or these rhetorical devices into proposing that very proposition to, let's say, a feminist, for the sake of argument. And then we'll come back, and then we'll do one more thing, and then I'll move on to the ethics of Subboor is going to do. Okay, so maybe 5 minutes.
I'm going to use ChatGPT to make it.
What was the question again?
I put trust in you. Me? Yeah, don't. You say it, I'm going to read it.
So imagine the context is if you're speaking to a feminist, and you want to convince her that basically we shouldn't be treated equally in all situation. Yeah.
Kitchen.
You can say something about kitchen if you want, anything you want, no problem. But you have to employ either chiasmus or isocolon or something like that.
Yeah, I've got one. It's everyone's a feminist while the cannons sleep, but when war awakens, their vows grow cheap.
Oh, that's a nice one, huh? See?
She fights for rights with slogans and flair. He makes a podcast and sells despair. Nam.
And the other one's coming up.
You guys.
No, I don't have
I tried to do it
That was funny.
Try to find oppositional things, right? And try and make a point out of doing it. Like, for example, what do we say? Do we want equality or do we want something else? What are we looking for? Equity, right? So you could say some effect of, equality proposes that we're all treated the same. I'll put it this way. Equality wants the same for all.
What about if I said this? I heard it
Wait, I
somewhere.
haven't finished yet. Equality wants the same for all, whereas equity wants the right for each.
Yeah, it sounds dead, I'm not going to lie.
Not
Do you want
like
to hear
that.
my one? Do you want to hear my one?
Go on.
But I heard this somewhere. The greatest inequality is to treat equal things equally. No, the greatest inequality is to treat unequal things equally.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Can you give me credit,
That's a good
please?
one.
Guys, just give me full credit, please.
That's actually fantastic.
I heard it. I heard it. Yeah, it was me. It was all me. Where are you? Okay,
Yeah.
I can't see it. No, we have to. Yes, I use it against feminists in every university talk I go to, and they go crazy.
Yeah, but you see how that play on words it helps and stuff.
It came naturally. It was natural.
Say again?
No,
No, it doesn't.
It just came natural to me. Okay.
Yeah, got it number. Yeah.
Let's see what Tariq has to.
Okay.
Tariq's the most.
It's all praise the female soldier while it's play, but none would wish her leading in the fray.
I like that one. Female soldier. I like because it's imagery now. Like the female soldier. Yeah. Now we know where you're going with it. Do you know? Like, the moment you say it's female soldier. Yes.
Okay, this is ChatGPT, yeah. Equality says the ladder's there. Equity notes, but some need a stair. It's alright.
Okay. See, that's nice.
We should have
mashallah.
new people. Have you tried one?
I tried already.
Okay, so we've gone through parallel structures, yeah, and we've given 2 examples. What are the names of the 2 ways that we've just gone through now? The first one was called what? And the second one was called what? Yeah, chiasmus. Yeah, and what's the difference between the 2?
Chiasmus is when words are repeated with their order reversed.
Okay.
And then isocolon are synthesis similar in length and parallel in structure.
Yeah, so it's a lot of it's to do with the form, it would seem, but they're very, very similar concepts. Yeah. So isocolon demands that there's a certain structure of the sentence, that the first sentence is quite similar to the second in structure and form, whereas chiasmus doesn't seem to have the same requirement. Nevertheless, I mean, this is maybe some rhetorician somewhere will differ with this or with me or with this, whatever. But the whole idea is to bring opposite things together for rhetorical effect. That's what we're trying to do. Yeah.
Is there a requirement for chiasmus that the second bit has to be the first bit but flipped, or does it have? Can it be slightly different?
What do you mean? Like it has to be totally oppositional?
Because the example was ask not what your country can do, but what you can do for your country. But does it have to have
So,
exactly the same words but in different orders?
they're looking for ABBA structure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they're looking for that. That's a good question. Now, what is? Let's go back something easier.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and this I'm only going to spend 10 minutes, and then I'm going to leave it to Subboor. Yeah, because we're going to go through the ethics as well. What is a rhetorical question? We've already kind of covered this. Something easy for us to. What's a rhetorical question?
Are they the creators of themselves? Is it? Are they the creators of themselves, or are they themselves created?
Yeah, but what is it in definition?
It's
What do you think, Ali? What's a rhetorical question? Yeah. Well, what's a rhetorical question?
I mean, the people differ on this matter. I have no idea.
A rhetorical question.
I have no idea.
Okay.
You tell me.
Subboor, help us out here.
Huh?
So, Subboor, help us out. What's a
So
rhetorical
what
question?
what's going on? Give me a rhetorical question.
It's a question that doesn't need an answer.
Yeah, it's a question
Like
that
what?
does not require an answer. Okay.
Well, give me an
What you
example.
created from nothing.
Okay. Good. Okay. Where you created from nothing. Okay. Why would someone use a rhetorical question? We went through this last week.
Statement.
Say again.
To make a statement.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
As in, they don't need an answer. They're making a point by asking a question.
So you're trying to
Persuade.
persuade, but create interest.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're trying to create suspense and interest. And you could say it could be used, and he mentions this in his book here as well, it can be used for incredulity. Okay? So is that what you're saying? Like amazement. Ajub, amazement. Is that what you're proposing? The idea of a rhetorical question is that it changes the tone of your speech, okay? If you say sentence after sentence after sentence of just speaking normally, declarative statements, it gets boring actually. We don't want to hear no one say like that. In an argument, if you say, do you really think that's the case? It raises the temperature. Do you see what I mean? It raises the temperature. It creates excitement. It creates ta'ajjub. It creates amazement. It creates incredulity, right? And in speech, we're trying to create excitement. We don't want people to be bored. Now, there are two concepts which are closely related, okay? There's rhetorical questions, which the Quran does a lot of them, okay? But there is also hypophora, okay? Let me write this down for you. So you've got rhetorical questions, which, by the way, they're called erotima, but we don't need to know that, yeah? Rhetorical questions, yeah, which are questions that don't require an answer. Questions that don't require an answer, yeah? But then you've got, what's the other one that I just mentioned? Yeah. Hypophora. Now, this is a different thing. This is where you ask a question and then you answer the question yourself. And the Quran does that a lot as well, okay? So, we spoke last week about Surah An-Naba. Everyone here has memorized chapter 78 of the Quran. عَمَّ يَتَسَاءَلُونَ. What are they asking everyone about? Okay? عَنِ النَّبَإِ الْعَظِيمِ. They are asking everyone about what? The great news, meaning the Day of Judgment. Now, that's actually an example of a rhetorical question and hypophora. Because the first question doesn't really require an answer, actually, if you think about it. عَمَّ يَتَسَاءَلُونَ. What are they asking one another about? It's a rhetorical question. Akhi, the first thing Allah says in the surah to get your attention, bang, is a question. If you want to start a speech If you want to make a speech, one of the best ways to start, I'm not saying it's always the best, but it's one of the best ways to start, is ask a question. And another way of doing it, if you really want to make a statement, is ask a rhetorical question. And if you want to make the speech even more spicy and add more salt and pepper and chili and stuff into this, then you use hypophora. You answer your own question. Al-Qari'atu, mal-Qari'a, wa ma adraka ma. Look at all the suspense. What do you think the Qari'a is? Then Allah answers, what is this Qari'a? After he's built all the suspense. Can you see why it's rhetorical? Yeah? So, I want you to make, we'll use the same context. Yeah?
Just off the
Question.
top of my head.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the impact, because you're talking about the impact of asking the question. So recently, Tobin Robinson has gone to Israel and he's talking about illegal immigrants. He's found some Africans there and he's there talking about Africans.
Yeah.
If someone was to refute him and make a video, the rhetorical question you could begin off with is, you're complaining about immigration when standing in a land of immigrants. Basically, people
But
that
make it into a question.
like the whole.
So you would say, are you complaining?
Yeah.
Complaining about
Sorry, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
So, are you complaining about immigrants in a land that is filled with immigrants into Palestine? Like, basically, what you're
that
doing
would be a
is
rhetorical
you're
question.
basically mocking the person
Yes.
by saying, and it's a powerful dynamic.
Yeah, so at the end of it, put a question mark at the end of it, right? Question marks, it moves the mind. So we all know the verse in the Quran.
Have you seen the water you drink? Do we
Perfect.
bring it down or?
Perfect.
Something rather than nothing.
Perfect. These are all rhetorical questions. These are all rhetorical. Am khuliqu min ghayri shay'in. Were they created from nothing? Am humul khaliqun, or were they themselves the creators of themselves? Can you see? Allah doesn't even answer the question. Am khalaqu samawati wal ard. Did they create the heavens and the earth themselves? You know? Bal la yuqinun. And here you have a kind of hypophora, but which is not the same, it's not answering the question. It's saying they don't have any certainty. It's a pivot.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting rhetorical way of speaking. You don't have to say everything. You can omit certain things. You don't have to give people the answers. Make them think so much that they bring the answers themselves. The best way to teach a child how to swim is not to move his arms in the water. It's to throw him or her in the water, guide them a little bit, but let them use their own hands and discover how to swim. People don't learn how to swim. People discover how to swim. Everyone knows how to swim. They discover how to move their arms in the water. Likewise, don't give everyone the answers. A rhetorical question is, you're letting them discover the thing themselves. Let them discover how ridiculous they are. You know what I mean? The hypophora is for emphasis now. If they actually do need that guidance, you need to put the hands underneath them to make sure they don't drown. But the rhetorical question by itself is a very powerful way of shaking people. Don't underestimate it. The Quran does it so many times. It does this so many times. أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبْلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ. Have they not seen the camel and how it was created? وَالسَّمَاءِ كَيْفَ رُفِعَتْ. And how the sky has been outstretched. وَالْجِبَالِ كَيْفَ نُصِبَتْ. And how the mountains have been pegged. وَالْأَرْضِ كَيْفَ سُطِحَتْ. And how the earth has been smoothed over.
Yeah. You know, it's so beautiful.
Look at how many questions been asked. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hypophora. يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ السَّاعَةِ أَيَّانَ مُرْسَاهَا. They ask you about the hour. When will it be pegged? Answer. فِيمَا أَنْتَ مِنْ ذِكْرَهَا. You don't know anything about it.
That's very good.
سورة الرحمن نزول فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well, what of the favors of Allah do you deny?
Yeah.
Can you see? It's just making people think. The Quran is full of it. يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْأَهِلَّةِ. They ask you about the crescents. قُلْ هِيَ مَوَاقِيتُ لِلنَّاسِ وَالْحَجِّ. Say it's for people to know what time it is, and also for Hajj as well. يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْمَحِيضِ. يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ ذِي الْقَرْنَيْنِ. قُلْ سَأَتْلُو عَلَيْكُمْ. How's it go? يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ ذِي الْقَرْنَيْنِ. yeah, ذكرى إن مكناه في الأرض وآتيناه من كل شيء سببا ثم أتبع etc etc فأتبع سببا, you know, حتى إذا بلغ and etc etc. So they ask you about ذو القرنين. يسألونك عن الروح. They ask you about the soul. قل الروح من أمر ربي. They say, and there's even a kind of hypophora, which I would call an anticipatory hypophora in the Quran, which is وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي. If my slave asks about me, فَإِنِّي قَرِيب, tell him I'm near. So it's always doing it. Now, why I'm saying this is important for our purposes in debates and in speeches and stuff. Like say for example, Ali Dawah is going to start a video now, yeah? He's going to make a video about a Muslim feminist. Okay? And this Muslim feminist has got massive eyelashes and this and that, whatever. and she's saying some blasphemous things or whatever it may be, right? So what he could do is sit down and say, look, how can you say this? In his voice, he could say, how can she say this? She is breaking homes. She is doing this. She is doing that. Or, how would he change that into a rhetorical way which will make her think? Same content, but just in a different rhetorical. How would he use rhetorical questions?
Are you trying to break home? Are you a home wrecker?
No, are you a home wrecker is maybe a too suggestive. You want to be a bit more subtle here, maybe.
Home wrecker you are.
No, it's got to be a question.
Are you trying to tear families apart, or are you encouraging families to dismantle?
Yeah, oh, that's fine. Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to see, how about this one? Do you want to see children cry? Sorry. A simple question. I want to know, do you want to see, your behavior is encouraging the suffering of children. So my question to you is, for example, do you want to see children cry?
Well, that's a fantastic idea.
No, but do you see what I'm saying here?
I've done another video. I'm going to add. There's a child that was crying when he was going to see her mum.
No, because it creates an image, right? Do you really want to see children cry? Now imagine that question now. Can you see? Instead of, that's exhibit A. Do you want to see children cry? Yeah? Exhibit B is what? Children are going to be suffering if you do this. Which one's more powerful? Exhibit A is way more powerful. Did you see it? So if I say, oh, look, you know, the behavior of Muslim feminists creates suffering for households. Exhibit B, or creates suffering for children. Exhibit B, do you want to see children suffer?
Yes, they do.
Do you want to see children cry?
Yeah.
Just for your own needs?
They do.
Do you want to do it for your own needs? Do you care about your own needs more than that child, innocent child? We hate the Zionists, embellishing. We hate the Zionists because of their attitude towards children. Do we really want to embody, albeit in a smaller, capacity, but do we really want to embody that? Do you see what I'm saying here? Question after question after question. You see,
Would you like
Ali
your
Dawah's
child
video
to...
will go from 1,000 likes, it'll go to 2,000 likes immediately.
Next one coming out Sunday at Mati.
Do you see the use of rhetorical questions? Or Ali Dawah can start a video, right? And he can ask a question to the audience. He can say, do you know what the number one cause for depression among children is from this age to that age? The number one cause of depression. He's answering the question now, see? The number one cause of depression, I'll tell you what it is. He pauses a little bit for dramatic effect. I'll tell you what it is.
Ali
He
Dawah
pauses
rule.
a couple of seconds. I don't know, I haven't done the stats on this.
Yeah, because I've done it. I didn't
Yeah, so he's asking the question and then he's going, I'll tell you what it is.
Allah sent me here for a reason.
So I'll tell you what it is.
There was a bit missing.
Yeah.
I had to cut this out, yeah? This is fantastic, bro.
Yeah.
What the heck is that?
Yeah.
This is actually superb.
I'm telling you, akhi. But we're just taking it from the Quran. We're learning from the Quran, akhi.
This is fantastic.
We're learning not just from the content of the Quran. We are learning from the style of the Quran. No, give Allah the credit. He's the one who's teaching us all of this. You know.
Those videos started with questions has more engagement than other ones.
Absolutely.
So people,
Start with a question. Just
amaze
start.
people.
Throw the punch. It's a jab. You need to start throwing the punch. This is it. Pepper your speech with it. You start off with saying what? Number one question. Do you know what the number one cause for an Ali Dawah's video for children being depressed and having pathology and having psychological issues? And you can start listing. So you know what that is? And then pause for a second. Let them think. say it's divorce.
Even sexual assault.
So now the question is, so now you told them the answer, it's divorce. Now that
Sexual assault.
sexual assault. Now that you know all of this, and then you're going to say to the public, Ali, you say, now that you know all of this, to the Muslim feminists, when you say words like such and such, do you really think it's responsible?
This man is a genius.
I'm just it's the use of rhetorical devices, but because you can say the same thing and not have it in that structure and it will not have half the effect, literally half. You can say that stats have shown that, you know, such and such, if children go through such and such, they'll go through such and such. Now imagine this now. We've gone through 4 techniques today, if you think about it. One of them was relating to parallelism, and the other one was relating to questions. Imagine putting them together. Imagine putting those things together in the same paragraph as you're speaking. Imagine how powerful that's going to sound. Just think about that for a second. When you're speaking now and you're making your sentences, you're creating sentences, producing sentences, imagine if you start thinking, I'm going to create opposite contrasts, and at the same time, I'm going to have rhetorical questions, and at the same time, I'm going to have questions I'm going to answer. Wallah, it will go from here to there, bro. Simple as that. It will go from here to there. You will be so persuasive. You will be so persuasive. You can convince anyone of everything. Obviously, that's hyperbole. You know what I mean? Like you can convince an Arab to buy the sand that he stands on. Say to him, look, you know, this is not normal sand. Do you know where this sand has come from? This is not the red sand that you're used to. This is not the black sand of this. This is not the white sand. This is the whatever. Yeah? So wouldn't you want to have this sand in your home? Like, whatever it may be. Do you know what I mean? But opposites, rhetorical questions. Now that you know the techniques, we have to implement them. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there. Any questions on what we've covered? Simple things. I mean, so we took, just to finish, we spoke about opposite structures, number 1. And we also spoke about rhetorical questions, again, because it's so important, it's so easy, and everyone should know what it is. And hypophora as well, which is, what is hypophora quickly? Asking a question and then answering it afterwards. That's correct. Now I'm going to bring in the magnificent, his record, a perfect one. This man is one of the leading debaters of the Muslim world. He is the one and only Subboor Ahmad, please.
Assalamu alaikum. We are now going to be speaking about ethics. Whenever there is a discussion between a Muslim and an opponent, that opponent could be a follower of Darwinism, liberalism, humanism, Taoism, Christianity, Judaism, whatever it is, they're most likely to be bringing up ethical issues in Islam, moral issues in Islam, and they believe that these are challenges to the Islamic faith. So what is the best way of responding? The best way of responding is actually a full frontal attack, because whenever there is a challenge, we have to look at what is the source of that challenge. So today we're going to be speaking about the origin of morality. And where do these guys actually argue from? What is their starting point? Now, when it comes to ethics, there are many different ethical systems. We've spoken about consequentialism here before. We've spoken about deontological. We've spoken about Kantian ethics. We've spoken about virtue ethics. We've actually haven't spoken yet about evolutionary ethics. That's a type of ethical system. Then we obviously have the social contract theory, divine command theory. We have all these different systems. But at the root of it, the question goes back to morality. Now let's make a distinction, because it's very important in the beginning to understand what we're going to be speaking about. What is the difference? What is the definition of morality and what is the definition of ethics? Because a lot of people use these in a synonymous way. So we first have to clarify that. Maybe we can pass the mic around. What's the difference between morality and ethics? That's an easy one.
Morality, what is good, and ethics.
Yeah. You got the first part right.
Right.
Morality is what is good and what is bad, yeah?
Yeah, what is good and what is bad.
Yeah.
And
Ethics, how we apply it?
ethics, yeah, the
Yeah,
application of Is it the greatest good for the person?
That's a type of ethical system.
Right.
That's a consequentialist system or utilitarian system, right? So you got it right. One is the application and one is the personal. So morality is what do I personally believe to be right and wrong. But ethics is about what is the collective agreement amongst a group of people or say a profession. Okay, so for example, all of us here, we all have a sense of morality. We have basic moral ideas. So here's some basic moral ideas. We have the basic moral idea of if someone earns something, they have the right to it. If someone's cultivating a land, they have the right to it. If someone's good to you, you're good to them. There is such a thing as evil in the world. If a child's being deliberately attacked, a building has collapsed in Gaza, that thing is evil, right? And if you help out an old lady, that is good. So these are all personal beliefs. Ethics is when you apply it to a large group or to a profession. So now we're all here, and some of us can be, say, we're followers of Aristotle. We're like, Aristotle spoke about virtue ethics, virtue like courage and kindness and bravery and these types of values. And what I want to do is I want to make an ethical system based upon that. Someone can be deontological, Kantian ethics, which is never ever lie, right? So basically there are certain things you have to be principled, and even if there's a murderer with a knife that's going around looking to kill
Categorical
someone.
imperative.
Sorry?
Categorical imperative.
Yeah, so that's related to deontological ethics. However, there could be someone else who's a consequentialist who says, no, we can lie in a situation to save someone else's life. Those are different ethical systems.
Okay, good. Let me see if I've understood it correctly. Yeah? So you're saying, what's the difference between morality and ethics? So morality is a group of people deciding what is good and bad. So for example, we say,
No.
Oh, sorry.
Morality is our personal belief.
So it's subjective.
No. We're going to get into subjective,
Okay.
objective later. It's an individual believing there is right and wrong.
Okay, good.
Okay? Ethics is when you apply that at a larger system, either a group of people or a profession.
So how would I pose that to a person? Would I say, do you have morality or do you have moral values? Or what's your moral compass?
So
How would I use that argument?
So it's not an argument. Right now we're just laying
Okay, so
we're laying the architecture.
Okay, morality is what is good and bad.
Yes.
So we decide it's bad to lie.
No, that's later. We can get into lying under certain conditions or whatever.
No. Isn't that ethics? I'm just trying to understand when you say morality, that's what's good and bad, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Ethics is a system, a
Okay,
larger
good.
system.
So if I say lying is bad, does that go into ethics or is it?
No, that's a moral claim.
Okay, good. So if I say lying is bad, does ethics mean, argument's sake, how would you incorporate that to ethics?
Okay,
When
so
the community says that this is bad, then that's it.
So if a community says no, lying is good, does that mean it becomes good?
no. We're getting ahead of ourselves.
Oh,
here.
sorry.
Right now, we're just making some basic distinctions, which is morality is your personal belief about right and wrong.
Yeah, okay.
Okay? So I believe in this or that, someone else believes in something similar.
Okay, yeah,
Human
yeah.
beings have that.
Okay, yeah.
Ethics is a system of morality. It's a system to govern groups of people or a particular profession. So you, for example, have medical ethics or army ethics or lawyers' ethics, right?
Okay.
Or you can have a particular country which believes in consequentialism or virtue ethics or Kantian ethics or whatever it is. So morality is to do with the individual. Ethics is to do with the broader group of people or a profession. That's all it is.
Okay.
And then we're going to go into what are the different ethical systems.
So when someone says that's not ethical, they're usually referring to some kind of policy.
Yeah, so that's a brilliant point. They should say that's not moral.
But saying that's not
usually-
moral, wouldn't that go against the definition of morality? Because it's your own personal belief as opposed to something objective.
Okay, so usually when someone says that's not ethical or that's not moral, they're just using it in a synonymous way. They're using it in a synonymous way, what's right or wrong. Ethics is to do with a larger system, right? So for example, a government minister saying this is not ethical, he's talking at it. He's talking from, say, a British government's ethics
Code.
perspective. When me and you are talking, we're just talking from our own personal moral beliefs. So the reason why I want to make this distinction is morality is needed for an ethical system. Any ethical system that exists in the world, and we're going to go over the different ethical systems, you have to have morality as an input into that system. That is very, very important. A lot of people, they say, I follow a consequentialist worldview. I don't need to know where morality came from. I don't care. I follow, say, Sam Harris's view of that, we have this landscape of morality. About maximizing pleasure and, this type of stuff, and using science to do that. What we want to do is we want to be very clinically, surgically clear, which is ethics is to do with a larger group of people or a profession. Morality is your personal belief, and any ethical system requires morality. And this distinction is going to come in handy later on when we go into evolutionary ethics. Okay, is that clear? Okay, good. What are some of the ethical systems in the world today? What are some of the well-known systems? Consequentialism. Okay, what's consequentialism?
So they're basically, it's based on consequences. So they weigh up. I think the example they give is like if you had a train track and there was one person on that train, on the rails, and there was 5 people on the other.
Excellent.
Which one should you go for? Like, which one causes less harm? So it's like the lesser of two evils.
Yep, perfect. So, from a consequentialist perspective, if there's a murderer who knocks on your door and they have an axe behind them with blood on it, and they say, "Where's your cat?" Yeah. Are you gonna say, "Yeah, it's upstairs in the attic"?
No, I'm not. Unless I follow.
No. But first, let's stick to every step at a time.
No.
You'll say no. Okay.
No,
why?
cat,
Why?
Because I can clearly see you trying to kill my cat.
He wants to kill your cat.
Yeah.
And that is something which makes you lie.
Yes.
You're gonna say, "There's no cat here."
Yeah, but it's the lesser of two evils.
Yeah. So what you're doing is, there's something we believe in as moral agents. It is bad to lie. In this particular case, you're going to forego that and you're going to lie.
Yeah.
So that's consequentialism.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're looking at the consequences. Okay, now imagine you're not a consequentialist, you're Kantian ethicist, right?
Straight. I'm bringing my cat to him.
So you believe in principles which are immutable. I ask you, "Where's your cat?" And I got an axe here.
Yes.
What are you going to say?
This is my cat.
This is my cat. Okay, good. So consequentialism is the most popular system that we see. And there's actually a lot of discussion about, the ethics of it. And there's a lot of
what's the benefit?
conundrums which come up as well.
What's the benefit of not lying in that? I don't understand the concept of philosophy. Why do I not lie in that situation?
No, because, this is a brilliant question. When people come up with a particular ethical system, they want it to be morally consistent, and they want it something that can be applied in society, so it has, there's a clear coherence. Okay. And certain people like Kant, they just wanted to have rules which you don't break. You don't break under any circumstances. So virtue ethics is another one. So we get consequentialism.
Yeah, so just to add to that as well, sorry, from what I remember, please correct me if I'm wrong, it's been some time now, but the idea of the categorical imperative and the hypothetical imperative was that he basically proposed that if something was good, if you apply it to all of the society, that good will come out of it. So, for example, he famously, or the opposite. So, for example, he famously objected to suicide. He said suicide is immoral because if everyone done it, there would not be the continuation of the human species. What I found interesting about that line of reasoning, he also had, quite interestingly and maybe poetically as well, he had this idea of wasted talent. If everyone wastes their talents, we'll never be able to advance as a society, and if someone doesn't realize their potential, etc. But homosexuality, for example, right? Like, if you fit that into, you can make an argument against homosexuality based on this, because if suicide is illegitimate due to the fact that if everyone does it, there will not be the continuation of human species. Well, if everyone does homosexuality, there will not be the continuation of human species.
Even from evolutionary ethics, that's the.
So evolutionary ethics we're going to get to.
Well, that's the same thing with homosexuality.
Uh,
You're not.
Yeah. So evolutionary ethics is a different system. We're just going to go down the ladder. Because what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to give you an overview of the different ethical systems. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go back to morality. Because once we can, from the atheist perspective, because look, the atheist will come in many different masks. Either the mask will be an evolutionary ethicist, right? They'll say, I believe in maximizing certain values which have adaptive value. So it's good to be rational because when you're rational, you're more likely to survive, blah, 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 right? So an evolutionary account of ethics will give you a certain perspective. Then a feminist can come along and say this, and a consequentialist can say this, and a Kantian can say this, or whatever it is. In fact, social contract, that's a type of ethical system as well. What we want to do is, we want to say, despite all of those ethical systems, they still go back to you having to rely on some form of morality. You can't escape from that. Because a lot of the times, people are like, yeah, but we have a working ethical system. And it's like, yeah, but that doesn't mean that you can justify morality just because you have a ethical system that's functioning. Okay, so we covered Kantian, we covered consequentialism briefly. Virtue ethics, Aristotle, right? For him, the most important thing is certain things which can define you as being good, certain qualities. So he's not looking at the consequences alone, he's not looking at principles alone, he's looking at you being a good person by being brave, by being generous, by being kind. So it's just a different system. Another system is social contract ethics. What would that be? Social contract.
So whatever the general public believes. So we get our morals and ethical whatever.
Not morals. Ethics.
Oh, sorry. We get our ethics from general public. Whatever people believe, they come together and they make a system that's acceptable for everyone.
Yeah. So, for example, right now, for example, a country like America, yeah, the social contract in America, it allows a huge degree of freedom where you can actually refute the government, you can do this, you can do that. Certain repressive states, right, they will have citizens who are oppressed and they do not have the right to speak out against their governments, but in return, they get economic benefits. So for example, you have a country which is run by a dictator, and that dictator is going to be running it through a communist party system. And that communist party system has benefits over democracies because in a democratic system, you can basically screw up the economy, and because you know if the other guy's going to come to power, just screw up the economy and whatever. And you'll spend the money in the fastest way because you know you're not going to be in power. There's more likely to be nepotism, this or that. And there could be a communist system or another repressive system where it's a family of people ruling or a particular ideology ruling, and they have a 100-year plan. So they don't need to go through these 4 years. So the citizens of that nation know we don't have freedom of speech, we don't have these things, but our social contract is different. So the social contract in, say, the American context is you have a lot more degree of freedom, you can refute the government, and the government doesn't provide for you as much economic resources or support or whatever as another repressive, say, communist state. And in their case, they are going to take care of you economically, whatever, and the citizens know this is going to happen. Now, in these two systems, both individuals can say, oh, a child was run over. That's immoral. Okay? But in one system, a citizen in the repressive state, say he starts talking against the government, the other citizen can say to him, that's unethical. Because they're under a social contract in which the collective is going to get disturbed by rebellion. In America, if someone's free speech is curtailed, they will say this is unethical. Do you now see the difference between ethics and morals now? Ethics is to do with a profession or a group of people. Now, this is where medical ethics, for example, comes in, or army ethics comes in, or lawyers' ethics come in. They have their own different systems. So morality is to do with your personal beliefs, and ethics is to do with the profession or a group of people, right, having a particular system. So we've covered consequentialism, we've covered deontological, we've done social contract, we did virtue. Okay, another one, divine command theory. That's an ethical system. How does that function? Divine command.
Is it a theocracy?
Yeah, basically.
Whatever your book says, that's...
So whatever. Say you have a state that's being run by a church, a Catholic church. So for them, right and wrong, and what's good for everybody is decided by God, from their perspective of God, and that is their ethical system. Okay? So you've got all these different ethical systems, and the most prominent, I believe, ethical system today is the consequentialist system. That's the most prominent. However, it is being used today buttressed by scientific knowledge. And that scientific knowledge is what? Biology. Biology is being used. Okay? So the consequentialists of today, they're using evolution, they're using biology as the informed input into their consequentialist worldview. Now, many years ago, Hijab sent me something very interesting, Sharia consequentialism. Okay? Because it's not just evolutionary ethics that can be inputted into the consequentialist system. We can actually have Sharia as a consequentialist subsystem, right? Maybe you can explain a little bit about that, because a lot of people automatically think we have to refute consequentialism. That's not necessarily true.
There are aspects of consequentialism which are clearly in line with the Sharia. So just on the example that you've just given that refutes Kant, and it's the famous letter that he was sent about if someone came to your house and said, "Where's your husband?" to his wife, and because they want to kill him, and he's hiding upstairs somewhere, and she says he's not here. Obviously, according to Kant, that would be bad because lying is bad in all circumstances. Yeah. But according to a consequentialist, it would be good because the pros outweigh the cons, and the benefits outweigh the costs. And Islam would agree with the consequentialists here, because the principle of irtikabu akhaf ad-dararain, or basically falling into the lesser of two evils, it would be applicable here. So, in other words, it's better to lie if that's going to cause the death of somebody. Yeah. Obviously, the Prophet ﷺ himself has a hadith on this, and hadith even talks about, it says, لا يحل الكذب إلا في ثلاث. Lying is not allowed except for in three situations. And one of them is al-harbu khid'ah, in war. For war is deception, right? Which interestingly is the same phraseology that Sun Tzu used by war is deception. It's mentioned also in the 48 laws of power and all these kind of things. But that's it's a true thing, that is. In a war, you're not going to tell the opponent where you are, what you're doing, etc. The whole thing is about surprise. The other one is to, if you're trying to reconcile between two brothers or two sisters, whatever, maybe reconciliation. And the third one is husband and wife. And to be fair, there is a hadith that says husband to wife and wife to husband in Sahih Muslim. But the idea is that lying is very much a negative thing in Islam. Like, Islam speaks about lying in a very bad way. Someone who does lying will lie until they become they'll have a segment of nifaq inside of them, and then they'll go to hellfire. Like there's very severe hadiths about lying, actually. But we're not categorical imperative advocates or Kantians or deontological ethicists. We would say that there are situations where the lesser of two evils does apply.
Mm-hmm.
The issues are, of course, this is where the Sharia consequentialism thing becomes a difference of opinion among the scholars in Islam. The question is, where do we draw the line? Now, some people on one hand draw the line way too close, and they're the hardliners. So, for example, someone will say that on the issue of free mixing, for example, there should be no contact between a man and a woman. There should be no looking, in the case that we're walking in the street or something like that. So then we have to kind of live as hermits. If we take that very seriously, we have to stay in the house. Some hardliners would be like that. And some other guys would say, no, but we can just do anything. And then they'll, hug and kiss and touch and whatever with the opposite gender. And obviously there's a middle ground. And there's discussions among scholars, and they all use principles to see where that middle ground is. Mm-hmm. And this is where consequentialism comes in, because there's like Shafi'i famously said, Shafi'i in Kitab al-Umm, he wrote a book. He says, إِذَا دَاقَ الْأَمْرُ اتَّسَعَتْ الشَّرِيعَةِ, that when the situation becomes constrained, the Sharia becomes more facilitating, right? Which indicates an inbuilt flexibility in the Sharia, right? That inbuilt flexibility can't be ignored. Like, so when we refute consequentialism, because obviously,
Okay, so just on that point.
yeah,
I just said earlier we don't refute consequentialism.
yeah, if we refute it,
You're talking about the liberal utilitarian.
yeah. So if we're going to refute because obviously utilitarian is a form of consequentialism, and social liberalism is an outgrowth of that.
Yeah.
So when we're refuting it, we're refuting what they're putting into the consequence calculator.
That's the point.
Because consequentialism is all based on consequences. So some people's consequence will be different. Person A's consequence, they'll consider a good society to be a prosperous society, and that's the most important thing in terms of money. Like, another person will say, no, actually the most important thing is health. The other one will say, no, psychological health. That's the most important thing. The other one will say, no, actually it's the pride of the nation. That's the most important thing. The other one will say, no, it's this, that,
And
the other way.
The Sharia will have what we discussed the other day,
Exactly.
Life.
Yeah, so the Sharia has the
lineage.
6 things that the Sharia came to protect. And they are the consequences that are the most important ones. And so we have a different calculator. And our calculator is actually set for the akhirah. Their calculator is set for the dunya. That's the difference. Their calculator is set for the worldly pleasures and the maximization of pleasure and all that. So it's not that we don't agree with all forms of consequentialism. It's just the kinds of the hedonistic types of consequentialism that these guys are putting forward.
Okay, good. Jazakallah khair. Now, I mentioned evolutionary ethics. So, with each of those ethical systems, there was something that they valued. There's something that they valued to be the most important. With Aristotle, it was to do with the actual virtue of being kind or courageous. With Kant, it's to do with his idea of these duties, these principles, these things you categorically have to believe in, and then obviously consequences for the consequentialists. Now, the evolutionists, the ones that want to make an ethical system from them, their argument is that if something is helping you survive, it's good for you. So if there's something that is giving you survival value, being rational is something that's going to help you survive. Being kind is going to help you survive. From their perspective, you can break down whether that's coherent or not, but let's just go with the flow. So for them, it's about nature. This is what's happening. This is what's happening around us. Therefore, this is something good. Now, this is a subtle point, just a subtle point. Describing evolutionary ideas or evolutionary scenarios and then explaining about how they benefit mankind in terms of their adaptive value. Let's accept that at face value for now. And then someone says, it's good for us. What's wrong with this? There's something really wrong with this way of thinking.
I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I've learned from you about they all also have to believe in irrational fear, which also causes survival. If I said eating tomatoes will kill me, I'm not going to eat tomatoes, and after 30 days I go, see, look, I'm alive because I didn't eat tomatoes.
Yeah.
I don't know if this goes to your question.
No. It's
also
direct,
irrationality.
It's directly related.
Yeah.
G.E. Moore, he did some really interesting work on this because he realized this is a new argument that's being made and he didn't see the coherence of it. Now there can be things, and he pointed this out, there can be things which have adaptive value but which are not good for us, or which we would say are not good, right? You could be a genocidal state and that could help you survive.
Yeah.
Right? We've seen that in the world today.
Yeah.
So that you can't simply say it's adaptive, therefore it's good. But there's something else. There's a formal problem with this, and it's been known since the time of Hume.
So say that again. You just said something adaptive value, but
It has adaptive value, but we wouldn't categorize it as good. So there seems, okay, so if good and adaptive was the same thing, then there should never be an example of something that's adaptive, but we would say it's not good. Okay? So genocide can help you survive. Stealing can help you survive. You can be a Del
could
boy.
they argue that you're begging the question then? Because you're presupposing for example, the notion that stealing is bad. They can bite the bullet and say, well, stealing in that context would be good then.
Okay, the problem there is adaptive value when it comes to from an evolutionary perspective is a particular claim about certain values, which could be rationality, could be kindness, could be whatever. So we're talking about that category, that particular value. They're saying, therefore it's good. And the point I'm trying to make, and it's a very subtle point, this is a huge problem. They're taking something in nature, a description, and from the description, they're giving us
Prescription.
yes.
So it's the is-ought fallacy.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the problem. They're taking an is and turning it into a ought. Now, this was first highlighted by David Hume. If you take something in the world, you're looking at an animal and an animal is doing something, or we discover a particular process in nature, whatever it is, you cannot go from this is the way the world is to this is the way the world should be. One is a description, one is a prescription. This is known as a naturalist, this is known as the naturalistic fallacy. This is the formal name, the naturalistic fallacy. And by the way, we get this in commercials. You know, during the time when we were cavemen, we used to eat this type of food. Therefore, it's the right thing to do.
That some Muslims have fallen into that as well, in the sense that, for example, if let's say one's debating a feminist, right? And you say, well, the reason why the man should have 4 wives is because, he's built differently. He's got a different physiology, he's a different... And someone could argue if that's the reason why, then you're clearly moving from a description to a prescription.
Okay, that's a brilliant point. And this is the way that I would address... If, say, for example, someone said to me, you've used an argument that a man needs to have 4 wives because the man actually is more likely to, sin if he's only with 1 wife, whatever it is. Now they could rightly point out this is the naturalistic fallacy. But remember, what is the naturalistic fallacy? The naturalistic fallacy is to go from an is to an ought. But the believer doesn't derive 4 wives from nature. He derives it from the Qur'an. So it's not a fallacy. But that is something that we have to make that subtle distinction. We're not saying that we have 4 wives because of this fact. We're saying that because it's in the revelation. Yeah? So that's the relevant difference. Okay, good. Now, when it comes to adaptive value, something that we have to play along with is the Darwinist game, which is always going back to natural selection. They always say natural selection did this, natural selection did that. So before we challenge natural selection and its efficacy, we first have to look at their argument and the logical construct of it and see if there's any gaps, see if it makes any sense. Okay, so their argument is, okay, this thing helped us survive, rationality helped us survive, therefore it's good to be rational. And there's a problem here. The problem is all fallacy. Okay, there's a clear problem here. Another problem, which is this, and this is a very interesting problem. Natural selection as a process, as it's described by them, it generates, creates, remember it's the blind watchmaker, organisms to survive. So it selects for survival value. It tracks the things, the mutations or whatever, that help you survive. Natural selection is not there to help you find truth. There's nothing about natural selection that is, and this is the formal term, truth tracking. There's nothing, and this is what Ali was saying earlier. So for example, if I walk into a jungle and I see 3 lions walk into a cave, 2 lions come out, I walk in there and I die. Right? It's not adaptive for me to not believe in maths or not be able to do basic calculations in my head. If 3 have gone in and 2 have come out, okay, there must be 1 inside. Okay. However, there could be false beliefs that can help me survive. So, for example, there could be a poisonous mushroom, and I want to eat it.
That example again.
Okay.
Someone gave it in a book.
Anthony O'Hare.
Yeah.
So Anthony O'Hare, Beyond Evolution, I don't know if he used those exact example, but the example is the same. Basically, in Beyond Evolution, he's talking about the distinction between survival and truth. And this is well known. Natural selection is not there to develop true beliefs, it's there to develop things that will help you survive. Now, I'm going to throw in the grenade. Okay? This is the grenade part.
You didn't mention the poison thing first.
Oh yeah, sorry, the poison. So the poison thing, so I believe this poison in the mushroom, I don't believe there to be poison, although there is poison. I believe there is a witch who has cast a spell on this mushroom, and therefore I'm going to stay away from the mushrooms which are purple and say the purple mushrooms are actually poisonous. So I have this false belief that every single time I eat a mushroom, it's been affected by the magic of the witch, and therefore I don't eat that mushroom.
Or do you know, from what you said before to me, maybe you forgot it. I don't know which one he used, but he said that. He said that if one believes that all berries are poisonous,
there you go.
Then he'll avoid the poison berries.
Yeah. I think I spoke to Hijab about this maybe 10 years ago, mashallah, he has good memory. This is like maybe 2017 or 18 or a long time ago, 7-8 years ago, whatever. So there's lots of examples like this. You know, you're going at the edge of a cliff and you're about to jump, and then you believe you have wings, but your wings are damaged, therefore you didn't jump. There's loads of examples you can come up with. But here's the grenade, right? And the grenade is this. The grenade is, okay, so all human beings, we have a core morality. All around the world, we have forget all the ethical systems we have core morality. If you earn something, if you work on a land, you should get paid. If you work on a land, you have the right to it. You shouldn't treat others like you should be treated. There's a common moral system. Don't kill your own children. All this stuff is there. Okay. Now, here's the question. Core morality exists in the world. Is core morality true? Therefore, natural selection selected it. This one scenario. And I'm going to break this down. Is it that core morality is true, therefore natural selection selected it? Or is it the case that core morality was selected, therefore it's true? Does this sound like a familiar dilemma? There's something familiar to this in the ancient philosophy.
Dilemma, isn't it?
Yeah. So explain that dilemma.
Is something good because God made it good, or was it good and then God made it good?
Okay, good.
And God said it was good.
And so it's a dilemma because in one case, what's the consequence?
They could choose one of the two.
Okay, so in one case, if something is good because God chose it, then they would argue it's arbitrary. If something is good, therefore God chose it, there's a moral system outside of God. That's why it's a dilemma. In this particular case, and this is what I used in my debate against Alex O'Connor in Oxford. So this is a dilemma that was constructed by Alex Rosenberg. He took Plato's dilemma and he applied it to natural selection. So let's break it down. Say you have a core morality like be kind to strangers. There's a particular statement which we all believe to be part of core morality. Is that statement true because natural selection selected it, or is it that it's true because natural selection selected it, or is it that it was selected therefore it's true? Same problem.
If someone says, okay, well, if someone chooses one of those,
yes,
have they now resolved the issue for themselves?
No, they haven't.
Why?
They haven't. Okay, good. This is very, very good. Yeah.
Do I go because I've said I'm going to go, or do I need to go because I need to go? I need to go.
Fantastic. That's a great way of exiting.
So you guys can discuss this. Why did I leave?
Okay. So this is really important because in the debate, I believe he took one of the horns of the dilemma. And that's what you're not supposed to do. And in fact, I interviewed Rosenberg after this on my channel and we spoke about taking on one of the horns. So in his book, and it's really, really interesting, An Atheist's Guide to Reality, he basically says, okay, we have core morality, no one disagrees, and core morality evolved. Okay? Now, core morality is there. Now, the question is core morality true? Now, here's something to consider. If core morality is not true, what do we fall into? Moral subjectivity. Okay? Morals are not true, they're not real. If that's the case, all of our moral claims, they can't be adjudicated against each other, they all have the same epistemic worth. That's a huge problem. So, if you want to make an ethical system, if you want to make a claim that this is right, this is wrong morally, you have to believe morality is true.
Well, if you take one of the horns.
Okay, so we're going to take both horns and we're going to see what happens. Okay. So, core morality, is it that it's true, therefore it's selected? Or is it that it was selected, therefore it's true? Okay, which horn do you want to take?
Either or. Both of them.
Okay, let's take one at a time.
It was true that was.
Okay. Is core morality, so this is good. Is core morality, okay, core morality is true, therefore it's selected. So let's take that one. Okay. Now, core morality is a set of, say, statements that we would all agree about. Be kind to strangers, do this, do that. And say there's a set of 1,000 that we all agree about. Okay. That core morality that we hold in 2025, that is contingent upon our evolutionary history. So if we rewind the tape of evolution and go back billions of years and we replay it according to the classical orthodox neo-Darwinian understanding of genetics, if we accept everything, today we would have a different set of core morality. We can call it core morality 2, core morality 3. The way Stephen Jay Gould explained it is, in the olden days, for those of us who are a bit older, we used to have these things called the VHS tape. And what you would do, you would chuck it in this big block and then you'd press reverse and it make the sound, it'd go back, you'd play it, and guess which movie you would play? The same movie. He said if you reverse the tape of evolution and you replay that VHS tape, you're going to get different organisms, different morals, different features, different organs, different values, everything's different. Okay. Core morality is not something which could be true in that universe. You have core morality too. And also I want to make another distinction here which is going to be important later on. Morality is not just the claim which is this is right, this is wrong. It's not just the ontological claim about the existence of or the way that we perceive morals. Are they ontologically real or not? It's also got to do with duties. This is really, really important. Because if I believe cannibalism is wrong, and then I'm on an island and I have a machine gun and I have an army behind me and there's a child that's about to be eaten and the cannibal's about to get them, if I don't believe in the ontological existence of duties, if I don't believe in duties, I just believe it's wrong, am I going to help the child? Would I? No. I have to believe in the value and the duties. So this is one of the things I raised in my debate as well. You could have a claim that I believe in being morally consistent, I believe in this, I believe in, until you believe in the duty that has to be ontologically real, you cannot actually have a complete set of morality. Okay, so we went over the first horn, which is core morality could be different. Okay, the second horn.
If they're deterministic and they say, well, it couldn't have been different.
Okay. In that case, and that's actually a really good point. So in this particular case, they could make a claim that the universe was always going to be the way that it is. The claim that we could still make is this. The claim that we could make is core morality as we have it today is the only set of morality that could have ever been. But there's nothing about this in of itself which shows that it is true. So even if they say we don't believe in randomness, we believe evolution is always going to take a path. It was always going to take this path. There's nothing about that particular core morality, say core morality 1, and we have no other sets of core morality, which in of itself we can say is actually true. We can just say, okay, for that's the only core morality we could have had. Do you see? So core morality is something which is not true in of itself. It's just a outcome of the universe that we're in.
Let's say they bite the bullet and say, fine, it's an outcome of something of the selection process. That doesn't stop it from being objective, for example.
So we're talking about truth firstly. Let's be very clear. If they want to outsource objectivity to a determined universe, they can say it's okay, fine, that from my definition of something being objective, it's our evolutionary history. They can say that. Can they say it's true? They can't. What is it about that particular outcome? Because remember, if they believe in a determined universe, right, that doesn't mean that you cannot hypothetically come up with other scenarios. Just to help them visualize this, right? What is it about core morality 1 that we can say leads us to the conclusion that it's true? We can say, yeah, it's the only outcome. But there's a moral leap between that and truth. Do you understand? The second horn. What's the second horn? So the first horn is, it's true, therefore it was selected.
Selected, therefore it's true.
Selected, therefore it's true. So I'm getting confused here. Which one did we do first? The first one?
is
It's true, so it must be selected.
True, that's why it's selected.
Yes.
Second one, it's selected, that's
Oh,
why
we
it's
done
true.
the second one now.
We did the second one.
Selected. We just talked about it being selected.
We talked about it being selected.
Yeah. And
Okay.
it could have been selected differently.
Could have been selected differently.
Sure.
So now we're talking about it's true, therefore it's selected. It's true, therefore it's selected. Okay. In that particular case, you simply have to ask the atheist or the Darwinist or the scientist, fine, no problem. That means core morality is true, therefore it is selected. Okay? Natural selection is this beast which can find truth. Okay, we sit and we simply say, no problem. Explain to us how natural selection has truth tracking properties. That's all we got to do. Because natural selection only has the ability to develop or find features, adaptations which have adaptive value, not truth.
That's good.
Truth tracking is the formal term. Yeah?
Could you also say that it can't be true if it's selected because it would continue to evolve and as natural selection continues over time? Because they're almost saying it as if like our current morals are like a finished product.
That's a brilliant point. That's a brilliant point. I hadn't actually thought of that. That's actually another contention you can make. Jazakallah khair. So, do you understand what you just said there? He said they're assuming that's a frozen accident. So it's like our core morality is true, therefore natural selection selected it. Right? Even in that case, they still have to argue that natural selection has truth tracking abilities. And by the way, I'm just keying off your point. Since our core morality could change over time, right? We're basically saying there's two different versions of truth, which is incoherent. That's actually a really good point.
If they say it's true, therefore natural selection selected it, yeah, then what's the explanation that it's true in the first place?
Yeah, so you can go down that route, and you can also go down the route of truth tracking. Yeah? You can basically say, what is it about natural selection that can track truth? What is it exactly? Now, what was really interesting is when Richard Dawkins was pushed about this, that look, your idea of rape being wrong is as arbitrary as us having 5 fingers rather than 6. He had no answer to that. There's literally nothing you could say. Darwin himself, he said if we were reared under the same conditions that certain bees are, then we would have the weird sort of morality where we'd kill our fertile daughters or something like this, he said. So this is a really powerful argument against evolutionary ethics, because you have to remember something. They will use evolutionary ethics as a scientific garb, as a technical jargon to bamboozle you. So you're talking about, you know, we derive ethics from, we derive morality from Islam, we believe in this, we believe in that. And then what will they do? No, but this, but that, but this, but that. Okay, there's a huge problem here. And the huge problem is they are using scientific language to try and explain a point and cover it up in all these technicalities but they won't be able to define or even defend and justify even the basic units of morality. Now, I'll give you a small point on this. Whenever you speak to a Darwinist, right, or nowadays, a lot of people who may not even be familiar with the science, but they'll make similar arguments, they will say something like, we don't need God for our morality because our morality evolved. Okay? And you ask them, how did it evolve?
From where?
They will say, well, you're too primitive. We have a theory of kin selection. We have a theory of reciprocal altruism. We have a theory of the expanding circle. We have these sophisticated evolutionary psychologists who have actually put together game theory models which can actually show that overall, being a kind person and a moral person, you're more likely to survive than not. So they're going to give you that jargon. What's the answer to all of this? What's the answer?
Could you explain that again, please?
So, previously, what we spoke about is core morality true, therefore is selected, or is it the case that is selected, therefore is true? Leaving that aside, we're simply talking about core morality now. Core morality, okay? What if they say it evolved and they start giving you all this jargon and all these scientific papers? By the way, if you go into the scientific literature, you will find dozens and forget dozens, hundreds of papers about this particular moral thing evolved because of this, and here's my game theoretical model, and ducks and hawks and prisoner dilemma and all this type of stuff. You'll come out with all this type of stuff about why certain things evolved. We went over it, but what's the answer? The same thing basically applies. The same thing applies. Whether you look at it at a basic level or a higher level, it's the same claim that they're basically making. So let me just break down each point, because I want you guys never to be intimidated by scientific jargon. One of the things I realized about the Darwinists is they will use a veneer of scientific language to scare you. You know, like pagans, they have this thing where they draw on the door, they put some symbols and they put some stuff, and people come there like in villages and stuff, they get scared of the witch doctor because he's all... Seriously, the Darwinists will do this. So let's break down each thing at a point, okay? Kin selection. Kin selection. Kin selection is the basic idea. If I share genetic material with my child, I am more likely to take care of my child because my child carries my genes. Okay? Firstly, does that make sense? First pass, does that make sense? Okay? If you ask a parent, why do you take care of their child? What do they say?
Because they love.
Love. They don't say genetic. So what's the Darwinist answer to this?
Love is the evolutionary explanation for love.
Yeah. So they will give an evolutionary explanation for love. They'll say love is a proximate mechanism and the ultimate cause is sharing genetic material. Okay, good. So now here's what happens. I am kind to my child because of this. Why am I kind to my cousin? Because they share genetic material. Okay. Now, if there's a fight happening and my child is there, and my child is in a huge crowd and there's people brawling and there's my child and there's my cousin, according to kin selection theory, who am I going to go help?
Child.
Child. Okay. What if it's not my child which is there and my cousin there? What if it's a case where I have all of my cousins here all of my cousins here, and they share a lot more of my genetic material, and I have my nephew who overall shares less genetic material than all of my cousins. They're all middle-aged men and he's a 3-year-old. According to kin selection theory, who should I go and help?
The
group?
cousins.
The group. So the problem with kin selection theory is there's lots of recalcitrant facts. There's facts which go against the theory. They are counterfactuals. This is why David Stove wrote his famous book, Darwinian Fairy Tales. Kin selection doesn't make sense in that context, and there's many different contexts it doesn't make sense in. Okay, what if, and there are some parents like this, right? What if you're walking down the street and your child wants a lollipop, but instead of buying your child a lollipop, there's a homeless guy and you buy him a sandwich? You've bought something more expensive for a homeless man than you've bought for your own child. And that child is carrying your genetic material, and your survival and your reproductive abilities are going to be passed on through that genetic material. Right? Why would you help a stranger? What's their answer to this?
Their answer would be that the homeless guy needs it more and is less likely to get a sandwich, and the kid has all his food.
Okay, that's very good you said that. None of that translates into the evolutionary matrix. You take that language and you put it into the evolutionary algorithm, it doesn't recognize it. Because there's nothing about the homeless man which adds adaptive value to you. The child, it does. You give him a lollipop, you're giving him some calories.
It's morality, kindness.
Remember, they're trying to explain the origin of morality. This is trying to explain the origin of morality. Yeah?
Is it like the human species as a whole? They're trying to...
Okay, good question. This is a brilliant point. Darwinists will sometimes say it's about the species. But the fact is, that's not what Darwinism says. Darwinism is individualism. It works at an individual level. Right? So it's not about the nation. That is not how the theory is constructed. It's constructed in terms of how it benefits you. So ideas on group selection or species selection, no. We're talking about natural selection at an individual level. Okay? That's the way the theory is constructed. So if someone says, yes, about species selection, it's like, well, that's not Darwinism. Fine, give me justification for this. It's about the species. They have another theory which they call reciprocal altruism, which is, I help the homeless man and one day he will help me. Okay? If he helps me, that helps my adaptive value. Okay, what's the problem with this? Okay, so if I say to you, Tariq, the only reason why you're helping the homeless man is because one day you expect him to help you. What's your answer to that?
It's highly unlikely that I'll see that person again.
Good. But what if I say to you, yeah, but he's seen your face? What would you say?
It's meaningless. It doesn't matter.
Is there a counterfactual you can give me? Another time you're given charity maybe, online. Okay?
Yes.
So you're giving charity online. Or you're giving taxes to save the survival of the unfittest in hospitals.
Yes.
Anonymously you're paying for someone in a village in Philippines, their tuition fees. So there's lots of recalcitrant facts, there's lots of counterfactuals when it comes to reciprocal altruism.
And they can say that I'm doing it because it makes me feel good.
But again, let's put that into the evolutionary algorithm. Feel good.
Yes.
It's about adaptive survival. Darwinists will use this type of language without realizing it. Okay, another thing they say is the expanding circle. So they say first you want to just take care of your children, then you want to take care of your wider village, then you want to take care of the people in your city, then your village, then the humanity as a whole. But all of that is still based upon kin selection and reciprocal altruism. What I'm trying to get you guys to understand is all of this is scientific jargon. Always take them back to the basics, which is, how can you justify the origin of morality without God? And they will always give you an evolutionary account. And the evolutionary account will always fall upon two pillars: kin selection, reciprocal altruism. Both of them have counterfactuals. Okay? Good. Now, we're going to do a recap. Okay, a recap. Any ethical system requires what? Any ethical system requires what? Morality. And the morality has to be true. True. Okay, now let me throw out a difficult question as the last sort of way of just getting you to think about this in a deeper way. What if someone says to you, lying in Islam is haram, is wrong, as a theist is wrong, but you believing in lying to reconcile between people? Or if a murderer comes to you with an axe, you can lie. Alcohol is evil, but you can drink it. So what if they switch on you and they say, yeah, we can't say morality is true, but you can't say morality is true either?
Our morality comes from Allah.
That's fine, but they can say it's not true because there's a contradiction.
Would you just outline the difference between absolute and objective morality?
There you go. There you go. There you go.
And part of our system is an inbuilt flexibility.
Yeah. For something to be true, for morality to be true, we don't have to believe in absolute morality. For morality to be true, we don't have to believe in absolute morality. You can believe in objective morality, and that's enough. That's enough. Okay? Any questions? Make sense? I think everyone's absolutely tired because we just had 2 sessions back to back. All right, we'll end there inshallah. Jazakallah khair for watching. So in this session, we covered consequentialism briefly, deontological, virtue ethics. We covered social contract theory and divine command theory, evolutionary ethics, and all of this is fundamentally based upon morality, and morality is something that cannot be justified from an atheistic perspective, because from an atheistic perspective, all you have to play with, if you're a naturalist, is what? Time, space, matter, energy, laws. Using all of that, can you construct right and wrong? No, you cannot. To construct right and wrong from that is like pulling out a rabbit out of a hat. You cannot do it from thin air. Morality comes from a belief in God, and the belief in God is what makes morality true, and it makes morality objective, and without that, the atheist doesn't actually have a leg to stand on. So anytime you have an atheist who's making an argument, you can just say to them, look, you cannot justify the origin of morality, so we cannot actually take any of your moral claims to be true, especially when they're talking about human rights. Now, one of the simplest ways to summarize it is like this. Atheism leads to moral nihilism. Moral nihilism is the idea that morality is not true. Atheism leads to moral nihilism. Moral nihilism undermines human rights, therefore atheism undermines human rights. That is a deductive argument, that is a solid argument, and that is an argument that the Darwinist, the atheist, the scientism follower will not be able to refute. Everything good I've said in this video is from Allah. Every mistake is from myself. Jazakallah khair for listening. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.